On Friday, I posted a video about 2 quilt shops that Wes and I recently visited. Now, that was only the beginning of our trip. Can you tell by looking at my shirt where we went? If you guessed Paducah, Kentucky, you're right. And in this video, I want to give you some tips on places you want to be sure to see and things you want to be sure to do there. I'll also be sharing with you the purchases that I made while I was there. So be sure to watch to the very end because I have a really neat product that I bought that I want to share with you. If you've been to Paducah, please be sure to tell me about it in the comments below. If you visited someplace that I don't mention in this video, please be sure to tell me about it. Wes and I really did have a great time when we went. It was a lot of fun. Now, of course, the first thing I do want to mention is the National Quilt Museum. It was excellent. They had 2 different exhibits going. They had one with quilts from Barbara McCraw. They were wonderful quilts, wonderful quilts. You can go online and look at some of her quilts, and they really were incredible quilts. They were just beautiful. It was a really nice exhibit. And then the National Quilt Museum has its own collection of beautiful, beautiful quilts. They have a miniature collection that's always fun to look at. I've actually been to Paducah twice, and I've enjoyed the Quilt Museum both times. They had an exhibit called The Flip Side, and it was really neat. It showed the front of the quilt as well as the amazing backs of several quilts. It was incredible. Those quilts, they're just incredible. Now, I'm not going to be showing you a lot of pictures of the quilts, but there are a couple of things I do want to tell you about, so you'll be sure not to miss them when you go. Now, when you enter the museum, to the right of the check-in counter, there is a wood carving that looks like a quilt. You have got to go up close and look at it. Here you can see a picture of it, but it is really, really neat. It's just amazing how lifelike it looks. And don't forget to check out all the stained windows there. Don't forget to take a look at the pelican that's there that is decorated with a quilt theme. It's just really neat. And of course, don't forget to check out their gift shop. They have some really neat things in their gift shop. Now, the second place I want to mention is Hancock's of Paducah. Now, this is perhaps my favorite online store also. I like this store because of their sales. And if you're a selective shopper and you check out their sales frequently, you can really get some fantastic fabrics. So be sure to check that out online. I'll be showing you what I purchased towards the end of the video, but I like Hancock's of Paducah. But I have to tell you this, when you first go into Hancock's, you're like, oh, well, what's the big deal? This is just a big fabric shop. And that's what it seems like in the beginning, because you just see this big room full of bolts of fabric. But then don't forget to check out the back room. Now, here are a couple of pictures from the back room. On one side, they have kits, and they have lots and lots of kits. And then on the other side of that room, they have all the pre-cuts, and it is just, oh my gosh, it's almost overwhelming. There's so much. And I have a curious mind, so I asked him, if that's where they ordered their stuff back behind those areas, and they explained to me how they fulfill their orders. It was really neat. I'm always interested in things like that, but I did buy quite a bit of stuff while I was there. But the thing is, a lot of my fabrics were $5.99 a yard or $6.99 a yard. So it's really a neat place. We actually went there twice. Now, I went to several of the quilt shops quilt and fabric shops in Paducah. I may have missed some. There were quite a few listed, but these are the ones that I visited. Now, one of my favorites was the Tuscan Rose. It specialized in hand-dyed fabrics and yarns and high-quality commercial yarns. I have to tell you, it was one of the most beautiful shops I've ever been in. I loved it. I do like historic places, and this was located in the historic downtown, so it was located in, one of the old buildings, but she had it decorated beautifully, and she had lots of different quilts that she had made on exhibit. It was amazing. She was very friendly. She didn't want her picture taken, but she did give me permission to take pictures and show pictures of her quilt and yarn shop, her fabric and yarn shop on my channel. But it was beautiful. She does have some of her products online. The next shop I want to tell you about is another one that was located in the historic downtown. And this was a perfect location. It had local restaurants you could eat at. There were several museums in that area, and we really enjoyed being in the historic downtown of Paducah. The next quilt shop I wanted to mention is called Muppin's Sewing Emporium. Cheryl Whited owns this one. She and her husband own this one. And this was a very, very neat shop. This was different than any other quilt shops I had been in. I really liked the way she had her products displayed, but there is something very unique about her shop. She writes patterns, and I think she may have a book out on what I think is a new technique, and maybe it's not a new technique, but I've not seen much of that ever. But she does a lot with fabric manipulation, and her things were really, really interesting. They were really, really neat. You can see in this first picture, she has a lot of patterns. They have some products that they've created. In this picture, you can see some of her fabrics. She has lots of quilt notions. She had some really cute t-shirts too. I don't know. I really like these two quilt shops. They were different than other quilt shops that I've been in. So I wanted to share both of those with you. Wes and I also stopped at the Paper Pieces pop-up shop. They have their manufacturing shop there in Paducah, and they have just, I think, recently opened this pop-up shop. Did look around. She has a super nice shop too, and if you like to do English paper piecing, this is a must visit quilt stop for you. It's really neat. Now, you can't miss this one. Here in the picture, you will see this huge needle with a red piece of thread coming out of it. This is a sculpture there. It is one of the coolest sculptures I've seen related to quilting, and you won't be able to miss that because you're going to see it as you are on your way to the Quilt Museum. Another place that we stopped was the Calico Country Sew and Vac. Now this was another really nice quilt shop, and they had sewing machines as well as a fabric, a quilt shop. They had lots and lots of fabric, lots of notion, lots of samples everywhere. I don't have any pictures of that one, but that was a nice quilt shop, so you'll want to stop and shop there too. And it's on the same road and very close to Hancock, so it's easy to find. I wanted to also talk to you a little bit about non-quilt related things that we did there in Paducah that I think if you ever get a chance to go, you're not going to want to miss these. The first one I want to talk about are the flood wall murals. Now these murals tell the history of Paducah, and you really want to get out. You want to walk along the walkway there, and you want to read the historical markers for each of those. It is really fascinating. Wes and I did that. He and I both enjoyed that, and it was one of our favorite things. the first time I went to Paducah, we had seen the flood wall murals, but I really hadn't taken the time to read the historical markers, and it was really neat when I had read those. So be sure you take a look at the flood wall murals. It's something you really don't want to miss when you go to Paducah. And this flood wall was built because Paducah has had several big floods. I mean, really, really big floods. So be sure you take a look at that. Now, while you're down there looking at the murals, don't forget to walk around on the other side of the flood wall and take a look at the river there. This is where the Ohio River and the Tennessee converge. And there are lots of towboats and barges. Wes really enjoyed watching those, and I did too. But I think it's pretty neat to see where those two rivers converge. Now here's a picture of a historic home that we toured. It's actually a welcome center there in Paducah called Whitehaven. And I like to tour old historic homes, and it was really a neat old home to tour. And you can, tour that while you're there. It's just a nice old home if you like that sort of thing. But Wes and I really enjoyed that. Now, Paducah is located really close to Land Between the Lakes. Wes and I like to camp and fish, so we went out there and we went to the Elk Bison Prairie Drive. That was a lot of fun to drive through. And we also went to a nature center out there. I don't have any pictures of the nature center, but you can see the bison in this picture. We saw some elk too, but I didn't take any pictures of those. But I think this is like a 3 to 5 mile drive, and it's just a pretty drive down through there. And we always like to look at animals, so it was a nice drive for us. While we were out there, we also went to a nature center that was there. They have a little kind of outdoor zoo where they take care of animals that have been injured and can't be released back into the wild. So that was pretty neat to walk through that and visit their little visitor center there. There were several museums that we toured in addition to the National Quilt Museum. One was the Lloyd Tillman Museum, and we both really enjoyed that. Because if you go upstairs in this museum, there is a lady there that will demonstrate how she makes lace, how she weaves on a huge loom, and how they used to use a spinning wheel to make threads or yarns. So that was really fascinating, and she took a lot of time to show us those. They have some antique quilts up there too. The docents there were knowledgeable and shared a lot of fun information with us. In fact, one of them was actually from the same town we were from. We also visited the Inland Waterway Museum, which is down by the flood walls. We also visited the Market Square Museum. That was a good one. It's right in the same area, close to the flood walls. Another great place that we visited more than once was the Kirchhoff Bakery. We got lots of sweets from there, lots of baked goods from there, and we had lunch there one day and had some deli sandwiches that were really, really good. Now, before I show you what I purchased there, be sure to like, subscribe, and share if you're enjoying this content. Alright, these are all my purchases that I made at Hancock's of Paducah. As you can see, I think I'm in a bright phase. Ever since I made those scrap blocks with the bright colors, when I go into a quilt shop, I'm attracted to these bright colors. I wanted to show you these two products that I bought at Muppin Sewing Emporium. And again, these were created by Cheryl Whited. But here is one of the patterns where she's used fabric manipulations. And I purchased this because I really want to try this. I want to see. It was just so interesting how she did that. And so I bought a pattern. And then I also bought one of her templates. This isn't used to cut with. this is used to draw lines with, because I just think it's neat, and I just want to try that. I think it's going to be kind of neat to figure out how to do that, and I've just never seen anything like it. I'm really excited about trying that. Now, before you go, don't forget to leave me any comments on if you've been to Paducah and if you saw some things that I didn't mention in this video. I hope you'll get to go to Paducah someday. We had a great time, and until next time, have fun quilting.